Okay, here we go. Part 2 of the magazine review for Saturn magazine, September 26, 1997 issue. Part 2. Let's continue on with Blue Breaker, this nice full page to spread ad. We have advertisement for Mahjong, more advertisements. We have interviews with the producers of the game Virtual On, which was a wonderful game if you had those Virtual On sticks. If you got enough money to spend and you want to relive it, you've got to get those. You got to get the twin sticks. The game was really popular in Japan, in the arcades. I was never good at it, so my game usually lasted a minute or two, and that was it. This is Virtua Fighter TB, stands for Team Battle. If you like that, Get Bass was a great game. I think they released that on the Dreamcast, where you could get the little fishing pole to simulate the fishing pole that was in the real arcade version. Really popular at the time. Very crazy at the time. Scud Race Plus. I'm not too familiar with this game, but it looks pretty cool. Looks like you can... Yeah, I don't really remember this game. Ski Champ. Wait, maybe all of these are all the arcade games. Okay, now when I'm not too familiar with them, they reviewed the arcade games because Sega also produced a lot of arcades. So as you know, Dreamcast was the last console they made, but Sega still had a big part in producing video games for other companies, as well as arcade games, where they even had Sega arcades themselves that featured only, of course, Sega games like Virtua Fighter or a lot of their other Sega arcade games. This is the Sega Saturn Press new release title. Stop me if you want to see any of these games. But all of these games, I believe they came out, and they just have a real quick preview of the games for those who wanted to buy it. Here's that Puyo Puyo role-playing game, and you have Can Can Bunny, which is a sexy game. Sega Ages Memorial Collection. I don't know if I remember this game. Was it released for the Saturn? Anyone know? Here's Dodonpachi. Very popular sequel, and I think much better than the original Donpachi, but it's a mixed camp on that. Anyways, if you play this game on Xbox, honestly, this is the version that you need to play at least once. The Sega Saturn version is the one that started it all. It was available on the PlayStation, but as everyone knows, of course I'm a little bit biased, but the Sega Saturn version of all of these shooter games were better. The frame rates were a little bit better, and I think the sound was just a little bit better. PlayStation was known more for their RPGs, but Sega Saturn still had all of these arcade ports, especially the shooting genre, which is much more popular in Japan than it is in elsewhere. You know, bullet hell, shoot 'em ups, whatever you want to call them. This is the game. This is the system that you want to play it on. This is a pachinko game, and Saturn actually had this little pachinko add-on, a little handle that simulated a pachinko lever, which, if you've ever played pachinko, I guess there's skill involved, because certain people can win much more often than other people. But for me, I don't know, pachinko, you push the lever and uh, you know, you I didn't see much skill involved, but I guess there was. So Sega Saturn also provided a pachinko game that you could get your pachinko fill on in case you didn't get enough of the real thing or you weren't allowed to get there. Classic Road, check out this computer over here. It is a very beautiful Dell, probably running on a Pentium 2 if any of you youngsters know about that. This is the SNK fan club. Very cool. You can see all of these cool items that in Japan, most of these items were not for sale. You had to win it. The way you usually win it back then was you'd send in a postcard and supposedly your name could have been randomly drawn. I don't know how true that is if they did choose their friends and families, but you know, that was the whole thing, that you'd send in a postcard and you'd hopefully get a prize. This one, I'm sorry, but this one is actually if you join the club, you'd get these items. Sega Saturn guide, more guides. This was a sort of adult game. Here's Silhouette Mirage. If any one of you, if you've played it before, you know that it's kind of like, Ikaruga, where you have to change colors and you have different abilities depending on the color that you choose. It was a great game and quite, I would say it's relatively rare. I didn't know that these type of cartoon style came from Silhouette Mirage. Here's Alien Soldier, another Treasure game. Of course, Treasure is best known for Radiant Silvergun, but there are other great Treasure games out there. Here's Strikers 1945. I used to love playing those in the arcades with a good friend. Here's more racing games if you like that. More soccer games. And the soft review, I think that this review was made first popular by the Nintendo style, where you'd have different reviewers giving their own personal comments on each game that they reviewed, and then you take the average. And here's the soft schedule, well, the software schedule, where they have an approximate date on all these different games. And if you look carefully, all of these games were not planned for release yet, but you'll see a lot of these games, well, a handful of these games that will never existed because they were scheduled to come out, but they just never came out. Here's a horoscope, and here, I'm sorry, this is what I was talking about, where you could get a present. So you'd send in the questionnaire. I think that was in the middle of the magazine, and your name would be randomly drawn, and check out all of these cool different things that you could get. You could get software, but in the end, as far as, and at that time you'd probably want that because it cost the most and you wanted a new game, but in the end, for collector's sake, a lot of these rare items that were never sold in stores would be the ones that unfortunately you would have wanted to try to get. And that's only being said in 10-20 years of hindsight, that you want to get these rare, not for sale items. Here's the a Pentium 166 megahertz machine. Right here, these are telephone cards in Japan. because no one really had cell phones at the time. You'd buy these telephone cards, which were just, you know, credit cards for the public payphones, and well, these have their own designer pictures on them. And again, in hindsight, wow, it would be great if to have any one of these cards. Finally, the advertisement, and as I mentioned earlier, the advertisement for this musical singer. She made a kind of a clip, musical clip, and sort of a game, but you could watch her videos. I think I have this game. She was maybe my favorite singer at the time, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say if you know who she is, but I liked her, and I think I had all of her CDs at the time. She also did release a game on the PlayStation. I forgot what that was called, but it was, you know, she wasn't the most popular artist at the time, but when you think about it, she actually released several games for the video game systems back then, and that was kind of unusual. Anyways, that's my review of Sega Saturn Magazine 1997, September 26th. Stick around as I have a lot more cool things that I'd like to share with you. If you like this overview, let me know, and I'd love to go into more detail of some of these articles. Or if you don't think that it's worth watching, then maybe I'm not going to be reviewing all of these other magazines. But I think that it's pretty interesting, and hopefully that another 5 years from now that these magazines will be remembered. So until next time, see you guys.